Thinking about leaving your soul-sucking 9 to 5 job? One of the biggest struggles I see people, especially as women, face is the idea of having that safety net, that enticing perks and benefits, and listening to that head trash of what will people think if I leave. I totally get it, and I've been where you are. That's why I created a free guide to help you if you're thinking about putting in that notice. It's called Unlocking Your Exit Plan. Discover 5 things you need to do before leaving your 9 to 5. This guide is filled with worksheets and steps, so you will have hand-holding along the way. You can download your copy in the link in the show notes, and again, it's totally free. Now back to today's episode. Hey there, let's face it, today's internet world is so saturated and everyone is fighting for that number one spot to be visible. It is no longer about running ads and having thousands of people on your email list. It is about building relationships and networking with others to grow your business and become visible. Hi, my name is Candace. I'm a podcast launch strategist and I help service-based business owners develop and deliver their message to the world by using platforms like podcasting and bringing valuable content to those who need to hear what they have to say. Welcome to the Hello C.S. Dorsey podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the Hello C.S. Dorsey podcast. I have Jen today on the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm fine. So tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. So as you said, my name is Jen and my full name is Jen Paterson, and I am a money coach for entrepreneurs. And what that means is I work with entrepreneurs to teach them all of those very critical foundational money skills that it takes to run a business. In all honesty, I see this over and over and over again. Entrepreneurs who are just amazing at their chosen trade in every walk of life, from, doctors and lawyers to tradespeople to online entrepreneurs and coaches and product-based entrepreneurs, where they are so darn good at what they do, and yet they struggled financially. And I kept coming across this over and over and over again. I have a history in financial planning, and I couldn't figure out why these incredible people were still struggling financially. And when I, looked a little bit closer, I realized it was because nobody taught them how to run the money. It just is assumed that when you go into business, you have these skills, and it is a completely different skill set for a lot of people. And it can be very challenging and very overwhelming. And so what I do is I come in, I teach them a very easy, very intuitive, very systematic approach to money management so that they can focus less on, dealing with their revenue and, making those decisions and not having to overthink it. And they can spend more time doing the things that they really, truly love. So that is who I am and what I do.
That's awesome. And I'm happy we're talking about this, especially in the business and entrepreneur space. A lot of entrepreneurs don't even pay themselves at all. They put everything back into the business. And then, it's kind of like, okay, how am I going to buy groceries? So,
oh my gosh. You really hit the nail on the head. And that is something that I am absolutely on a mission to end, that myth that you need to pay your dues or you need to be earning a certain level before you can start paying yourself, or, you need to expect to go without a salary for 3 years. That is just such garbage. And I really would like every person listening, take a minute and really check yourself. If you are not paying yourself, then that needs to end tomorrow, because getting paid has got to be part of the deal. And it drives me up the wall seeing this over and over and over again, where entrepreneurs think, I can't have a successful business if I pay myself. And it's garbage. It's absolute garbage.
So we're going to go down a rabbit hole here. And I do this all the time because every time we talk about a subject that I'm so into, I'm like, I got to ask this question. What percentage, I will say, you recommend business owners or entrepreneurs starting out take from their earnings?
In all honesty, it's a very personal question, and it's very dependent on the type of business that you have. So, for any of my service-based entrepreneurs, a lot of the coaches and things like that, where your job is literally dependent on having yourself, a laptop, and an internet connection, you're going to be able to take a much higher proportion of your revenue as a salary, because your expenses are just going to be lower by the nature of your business. And as you grow and things change, then obviously your portion of your revenue is going to have to change as well. But, in those early days, you can probably look at taking like 50, 60% of your revenue as paycheck. And that is totally sustainable. Whereas anybody who's in a product-based business, then you have a much different business model and you're going to have to take a much smaller proportion of your revenue because your expenses, just by the nature of what you do, are going to be much higher. So, for somebody who's in more of a product-based business, maybe you're looking at taking 20 to 25, maybe 30 would be pushing it, I think, but it really depends on the type of business you have, how expensive your materials are, and those are the questions you have to ask yourself. And that's the math that you need to do. I'm sorry. I know that's a bit of a dirty word, but that's the work that you need to do as an entrepreneur when you're getting started to see, is this business model that I'm creating, can I make it work and get paid? That's the whole reason why we do this, is because we want to earn money. We want to support our families. We want to, have a legacy. And all of that hinges on it being profitable. So, make sure you take a look at that part of the business. And, like I said, for the service-based people, you can take a higher percentage, like 50 or 60, but don't quote me on that because everybody's business is so, so different. So you really have to do the math for yourself. Look at, what is your taxes that you need to pay? What expenses do you have? Do you have anything else that you need to be saving for? And guys, an emergency fund has got to be a portion of your revenue as well. If the last 18, months to 2 years has taught us anything, that we don't know what's coming and you've got to have something to cover yourself when something goes wrong. So that is a very long-winded answer to your question. And it really depends. I know that that's a frustrating answer, but it really does depend.
Oh, this is good. We're just going to end the podcast there. No, I'm just kidding.
Done.
That was good. Let's just drop the mic. No, I love talking about financial everything, and whether it be business or personal. I love talking about it because not enough people are talking about it. So I kind of get a little giddy when we talk about, finances and numbers and stuff. So I'm a weirdo.
You're in good company. I love it. It's what I do. I love it.
So let's talk about the inspiration behind you starting your business. What was that like for you?
Yeah. So I've always been a numbers girl. Like I was literally that, one girl in a sea of men in the, the math classes and the physics classes and the economics classes. Like I loved numbers. And then when I went to university, I just fell in love with the idea of money and, like the economics and supply and demand and world markets. And I learned, got my feet wet in the investing world when I was like 18 years old. I remember going to this, World Financial Outlook conference with my dad. And oh my gosh, I must have just looked hilarious because there I was, this little 18-year-old girl in this sea of like bald white dudes. And, I remember sitting and listening to the speakers, and we were there for, it was like a 2 or 3 day conference. And, I was just fascinated to the point where I didn't even notice my butt was going numb. Like you've been sitting there for 3 days and you're like, you stand up and you're like, oh yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable, but I was just mesmerized by the whole topic. And so I went to university, got my degree in economics and went off into the world. And I just fell totally in love with financial planning. And I really wanted to work with people to show them how exciting money could be and how freeing it could be to handle your money responsibly so that you're not a slave to, your rent bill. And like I said earlier in the podcast, after a few years of doing that, I found myself, really resonating with the entrepreneurs and really that frustrating experience of seeing people who had no problem bringing in revenue, had no problem, bringing in new clients, were so good at what they do, delivered results like, crazy. And yet they were living paycheck to paycheck. They were, missing payments on their rent. They were just a hot mess when it came to their money. And I'm thinking, okay, where is this disconnect? Where is the problem? Obviously it's not in their ability to do their job. Obviously it's not in their ability to market and bring in money. So there's a piece missing. there's a critical piece missing, and it 99% of the time came down to financial management. They just didn't understand the concepts of financial management. And so that is when I shifted gears and really went all in, working with entrepreneurs, teaching them those skills. And it's been such a wonderful experience watching these entrepreneurs come to me, and they're like, I had one person that told me they don't feel like a grown up because they just have never thought about this stuff. And they're like, I know I need to do this. I know I need to do better. Please help me. And, within a few weeks of teaching them, these really not hard skills, guys, these skills are not hard. They're really not. And, teaching these skills and showing somebody who is very intelligent and very capable just what to do. She came back to me and she was like, oh my gosh, it's like somebody waved a magic wand and I feel so much more in control. I feel like a grown up now. And my lifestyle hasn't changed. I'm not working any harder. I just have more money. And that is why I got into the job that I'm in, because there's no reason why every single person listening can't be good with money. It's really not that difficult. It's just nobody teaches it.
That's true. And they don't teach it in school either. Like high school and stuff. Yeah, they need to start.
No, I remember high school, and we had this awful, horrid class once a week for my entire high school career called CAP. And it was meant for career and personal planning. And it was a joke. And the only thing I ever remember talking about money was one day the teacher came in and he handed out income tax forms to everyone and was like, okay, this is an income tax form. And he didn't even really know how to fill it out. And in 5 years of career and personal planning, that was the only time money was ever mentioned. And the only reason why I knew this stuff when I got out into the world was because I was raised by somebody who was a bookkeeper. And, my mom was very open about, making financial decisions. And we talked about it as a family, and money was never a taboo subject in our house. So, I felt very blessed that knowledge I already had it, even when I was young as 18 and 19, I was able to do my own taxes. I knew how to do all that stuff. But if I hadn't had that at home, then I would have been just like my peer group and been, flying blind and probably making a lot of mistakes. I mean, not that I didn't make mistakes. Don't get me wrong. Many mistakes were made, but probably fewer than it would have been otherwise.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, because the parents, my mom was the same way as well. Like she taught me how to write a check, how to get money from the ATM. She taught me to basically give me a checking account at a young age. I learned the power of NSF fees. So I was the NSF
those are
queen. I know. And I didn't really understand that. And the only time I really got it and learned the significance of it is when I got my first job. I'm still in it. I'm 16 years in. But when I started working for a credit union, and being at that credit union has really taught me a lot about, your finances and credit and managing everything. Because when I see people come in and then I help them out with their accounts and everything, and I'm looking at their accounts and I'm like, oh, what did you do? And I learned from other people's mistakes. So it was really helpful for me being in the financial institution realm, so I can learn how not to make the mistakes that other people made at the financial institution. So it helped me out so much. Yeah, I really am grateful, even though I don't like going. I really am grateful for that job.
It's funny. I've had a lot of people tell me very similar stories. And I actually have a very similar story myself. I worked in credit counseling, as a file monkey. So I literally was staring at all of these files and all of these people's statements. And I remember looking at one, and the person, had a birth year of maybe a year or two older than I was. And they had racked up 6 figures in consumer debt. And the first thing that popped into my head was, what did you buy?
Yeah.
How did you manage to rack this up? And, as my time there progressed, and I saw more and more and more of these files, kind of come across the desks of the people that I worked with, it hit me that maybe this wasn't such a, an anomaly, that perhaps this was actually very easy to do. And, one should be very careful with consumer debt. I know we've sort of veered off the entrepreneurial track here, but like, in all honesty, in any walk of life, entrepreneur or not, that consumer debt is it's such a slippery slope that you really have to stay on track with. And yeah, it was a very eye-opening experience for myself as well.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. It's so funny when we have like campaigns and things at my job, and especially for personal loans, and we have like a campaign for people to get these personal loans. And I say to myself, if we are probably gonna like, if they ever was listening to this podcast, they're probably like, what, Candace? But it's like if we're trying to help people with their financial health and well-being, why are we encouraging them to go into debt?
Because that's how they make money, my dear.
I know. I know. So
for anyone listening, that is how banks make money. It's not by those obnoxious fees you pay on your account. Those are just, a little gravy for them. But the way they truly make money is by lending out your deposits and then charging big money and interest. That is how all banks make money. That is their entire business model. So, make sure, if they're giving a promo like that, just check yourself a little bit before you sign on the dotted line.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're not talking about like one promo a year. We're talking about back-to-back quarterly promos that we're having. And I am like, and we have credit card promos as well. So I'm like, I don't think the message is we're helping you with your financial health and well-being. It's like, okay, we're going to help you with this financial health and well-being, but do you want this credit card that's going to add to your current debt that you're kind of trying to get rid of? So I don't know. I'm just, I cringe sometimes about that, but what can you say? Like you said, they have to make money with, based off the interest and everything that, they lend out. So, hey, got to keep the doors open somehow, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going down the rabbit hole here, but I love it. Hey there. Are you looking to start a podcast without the tech overwhelm? Let me guess. You probably searched on Google and YouTube on how to get started, but the instructions and video left you feeling like, huh? Well, look no further, because I have a free guide on how to jumpstart your podcast without the complex tech talk. Head on over to hellociasdorsey.com/JSP. Again, it's hellociasdorsey.com/JSP. In this free guide, you will get a get started questionnaire, a list of resources, an outline for your show notes, a plan your podcast calendar, a schedule for your episodes, and a podcast checklist. Head on over to hellociasdorsey.com/JSP and download it now. I cannot wait to listen to your first episode. So can you remember a time in your business or starting out where you had a hello moment?
Oh, the hello moment. It's funny. This is one of my favorite hello moments, that like, aha, kick in the pants that, I really needed. And the big theme of this is do what you're good at. So anyone listening, do the things that you're good at doing. So I had my website on WordPress.com, and I am not a big fan of technology, and technology is not a big fan of me. We don't mesh beautifully. It's okay. And so I was switching from that very big headache of WordPress to Squarespace, which to me was just a little bit more plug and play, a little easier, a little less headaches, fewer gray hairs being grown dealing with it. So I had created the website. Everything was ready to rock and roll. The last step of the process was just to switch the domain from the old WordPress site to the new Squarespace site. And there were many hours spent watching YouTube videos, reading blogs, reading how-tos, trying to figure out this last, what seemed to be a very tiny step. And I'm not even lying, 3 hours went down the tubes trying to figure this out. And finally, I threw my hands up in the air and went, fine, okay, I can't do this. Clearly, I can't do this. And I went to my IT department, which is also known as my husband. And, he works in the tech field and has his entire life. So, when I do have a problem, I do have that like fallback. But I was like, no, I was bullheaded. I was going to do this myself. I was going to figure it out. And I went to him and said, okay, I feel defeated. I can't figure this out. can you please help me with this last step of switching my website from the old one to the new one? And he was like, yeah, no problem. 5 minutes later, no word. I am not lying. It was 5 minutes. He's like, there you go, hon. I was like, are you kidding me right now? That took you 5 minutes? And I had this moment where I was like, what a waste. Like, think about all of the other things that I could have been doing that only I can do during those 3 hours, instead of banging my head against a wall, trying to figure out something that somebody else could have done in 5 minutes. And, the other part of that is I know that, not everybody out there has a husband IT department or things like that, but I could have spent $5 on, Fiverr or Upwork or something like that and had, somebody do it. And it would have cost me $5 and I would have saved myself that 3 hours. And the opportunity cost. So any economics dorks out there will know what I'm talking about. But the opportunity cost is, that lost opportunity, those 3 hours, there was value in those 3 hours that I lost, and an immeasurable amount of money that I could have possibly brought into my company, banging my head against a wall to save the $5. Like, that was that moment where I suddenly was like, I need to spend the time doing only the things that I can do. I need to be spending the time creating content, working with clients, doing interviews like this, because these are jobs that only I can do. And the things that I'm not good at, the things that I procrastinate on, the things that make me grow gray hair because they're just not my zone of genius. And I know it's a buzzword, but realistically, things that I'm not very good at, I can find someone who's going to do it better, who's going to do it faster, who's going to be more efficient. And it's not going to give them, a migraine to try and figure this out. And that was that big aha moment in my business where I realized that I don't want to have my business, die because I am determined to do everything myself. It's just not possible. You cannot have a big, successful business by yourself. And I think that was, as an entrepreneur, like a really big wake-up call for me.
Yes, I agree. There's a saying that time is the new currency or something like that. I think I probably butchered that. But
but the gist is there. We got you.
But time is currency. Like time, time is so valuable. It is so valuable. And I completely agree with you on that. I am one of those ones that I have to do everything. Why? Because I have to make sure that all the automations is running well. I have to make sure that sales page look okay. I have to make sure that the design is on point. And I'm so happy you mentioned that, because I'm like, there's a sales page that I need to do for one of the products I'm trying to create. And I'm like, you know what? Hey, maybe I should just go on Fiverr and see if somebody can do it for like $35 or whatever, $50, and just write it out for me. And then I just cut and paste and tweak it a little bit. How about that?
Exactly. So. And, you think to yourself, in terms of that time, if it would take you like 2-3 hours, what are you losing by not spending that 2 or 3 hours, on revenue generating activities? Right. What are you losing, by not spending those 2 or 3 hours on only things that you can do? There's certain things that eventually you cannot farm them out. And you need to focus on that stuff, because that's what's going to move your business forward. Spending 3 hours banging your head against a wall trying to make a sales page look perfect, it's not going to move your business forward.
That's right.
The word I've heard over and over again, and it's Denise DT. She wrote the Chillpreneur book, and she calls it procrastinating. And I was like, that's the most genius word I've ever heard. Like, how much time are you wasting procrastinating when you could be generating revenue for your company?
Yeah, that's so true. And I tell people, if you're starting a business, start getting clients now. Don't go out and do all the things in the website. I've done it. And as time went on, I'm like, oh my gosh, I spent so much time on this stuff. And I'm too pooped to even find clients, because I just spent all my time trying to do this website, trying to do this branding board, trying to do this. And I'm like, I could have been getting clients. And I found that I don't even need no website. My website don't even say, that, hey, I can help you out with XYZ. It says, here's my podcast. This is me. That's it. And I
Yeah.
still get clients, because it's all about word of mouth. And, people know me for what I can do. And that was on my website. So yeah, you could do those things later, but definitely work on trying to get clients and trying to get yourself out there.
Ladies or gentlemen or whoever's listening, the vast majority of my clients, I don't think they've ever been to my website.
Mine either.
So there you go.
We can drop the mic on that one as well. Oh my gosh. This is so good. So let's talk about a systematic approach to money management. Can you talk more about that?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, has anyone out there, if you've ever seen like The Home Edit, which is a home organization, they have Netflix special and everything like that. They are all about the system with your stuff. And I am the same way when it comes to your money. You have to have an easy, repeatable system. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. You're not going to do it. So the first step of an easy, repeatable system is have a time block in your calendar that you are dedicated to spending time with your money. It's got to be once a week, it's got to be an hour, and you got to spend some time with your money. And, a lot of people will tell me, oh my gosh, an hour a week, that's a lot. And it's like, well, let's think about all the things that your money does for you. Let's take a minute and just think about all the things that your finances do for you. They put the roof over your head. They put the food on your plate. Your money puts the clothes on your back. Everything that you touch, that you experience day in, day out, your bed, your kitchen table, that coffee mug, the coffee in the mug was all brought to you through your money. And you are being cranky about spending 1 hour a week giving it some love. Like, I'm sorry, there's a disconnect there. So spend an hour a week, block it in your calendar, make it the same time every week, create a habit around sitting down, opening up your statements, opening up your mail, paying your bills. Just put it in that calendar, make it a habit so that you are always exactly on point with what's happening with your money. You know exactly where it's going. You know how much is in your accounts. You know when your bills are coming out and what's coming and going, because the worst thing that you can do with money is ignore it. And if you ignore it, it's not going to get better. If you mindlessly eat junk food, are you going to lose weight? No. Are you going to be healthy? No. You have to pay attention. And so, spend that 1 hour a week. I call it the power hour. Some people call it money church. I've heard a million different names for it, but really it's just that time for you to sit and focus in on what's happening with your finances. And if that sounds really scary and overwhelming, start with spending 10 minutes once a week just looking at your statements. In all honesty, I know a lot of people who are terrified to open their statements. It gives them like heart palpitations. Just set a timer, open up your statements, spend 10 minutes looking at it, close them down, pat yourself on the back, and then do it again the next week. And get it to the point where that's easy, and then start, moving on and moving forward. But the core thing, and if you've listened to nothing else, if you've totally tuned me out for the last however long we've been here, if you hear nothing else, this is the important one, is money needs to be paid attention to. You have to pay attention to your money. You have to spend some time with your money. Otherwise, it's going to walk all over you and it's going to rule your life. So take that power hour and focus in on your money.
I love that. I'm going to try it.
Yeah, like set that time in your calendar. Go open up your calendar and put it in there, and make it as important as like a client appointment or a doctor's appointment. Like, those are things that you just would not miss. And set that same priority level for your money power hour. Like I said, your money supports every single thing in your life, and you have got to show it some love back.
Oh, I love this. This is so awesome. So any last minute advice you have for our listeners out there?
Oh my goodness, so much. But really, there's two things as an entrepreneur that you really need to do. So the first one is, like I said, that power hour, that money church, that whatever it is that you are going to call it. You have to set that every week. Like I said, make it a habit and create a ritual around it. So maybe it's Saturday morning. So mine is Saturday mornings at 9:00. That is my power hour. So I grab my cup of tea. I grab all the mail, I come down to my workspace, I open my laptop, and it's literally the same motions every single week. So there's a ritual around my power hour. The second thing you need to make sure you do is coming back to that paying yourself thing. I don't care if you are earning $1 or if you're earning $100,000. It doesn't matter. A portion of your revenue has to go to you. So I want you to think of your revenue like a cookie. So, we can all picture a big round cookie. Maybe it's got chocolate chips in it. That sounds delicious. So that cookie, you have to decide how you're going to divide up that cookie to all the different jobs that your money has to do as a business owner. When you're an employee, your money has one job, and that is to support your lifestyle. And that is it. That's all your money has to do. As an entrepreneur, your money has a lot more jobs to do. It's got to wear a lot more hats. You've got to make sure that your taxes are covered. You've got to make sure that you are getting paid. You've got to make sure that your operating expenses are covered. You have to make sure that you are putting away emergency fund for when something goes sideways. You have to think about growth. You have to think about maybe employees or, whatever else you've got going on in your business. I don't know. So, you have to think about that cookie and how do you want to divide it up, and be very intentional with how you divide up that cookie. A place to start would be like, okay, 20% of my cookie is going to go to my taxes. 40% of my cookie is going to go to me. 10% of my cookie is going to go to future growth. 30% of my cookie, I think I'm running out of percentages here, but you know what I mean? Like 30% of my cookie is going to pay my operating expenses, and stick to it. Like even if you're earning $1, then take 40 cents of that dollar and pay yourself. And that is something that you need to incorporate when you're just starting out, when you're small, so that those habits are deeply ingrained. Those neural pathways are deeply ingrained in your brain, so that when you're big and you're earning, the 5K, 10K months, it's already done and established. So you don't have to worry about it, and you can focus in on growing your business, serving your clients, and, whatever else is popping up. Because inevitably, if you're making that kind of money, there's going to be more problems to deal with. So you don't want managing your money to be one of them.
Oh, I love this. Oh, yeah, this is awesome. So where can everyone find you?
Absolutely. So there's a number of different places that you can find me. First off is in my free Facebook community, where I share all sorts of delightful tips. There's videos monthly masterclasses on all of the stuff and more. Because guys, entrepreneurial finance is a big topic. So we cover it all in my Facebook community. It's called Money Strategies for Female Entrepreneurs. And don't worry, I'll make sure you have that link so that you can find it easily. And the other place you can find me is my paid community. So that's the Dollar Divas Money Club. So that is everything that's in my free community, but in more detail, lots more hand holding, a lot more guidance for anyone who feels like, maybe they need a little extra support. This stuff is kind of overwhelming. Totally understand if you're in that boat. Come find me, come join the Dollar Divas Money Club. It is a fantastic community of women who are all learning these skills and implementing them and just making their businesses so financially stable and sound and amazing. And then the last place is you can always reach out and we can figure out a way to work together one-on-one. I do some one-on-one coaching still. So that is also an option. And I'll make sure I accept all those links, and ways to reach me are in the show notes. And then the last place is my podcast called In the Trenches. It is a very honest look at what it's like to build a business in the online world while simultaneously trying to raise tiny humans and keep them alive. So that is also available. Like I said, I'll make sure you've got all the links to that show.
Oh, wow. We're going to drop the mic again. You rattled off everything. I was like, wow.
Done this once or twice.
Just a few times, right? All right. So we are definitely going to link everything that you said in the show notes so everybody will know exactly where to find you. It will be easy to click on those links that we will have available for everyone. Well, Jen, I thank you so much for coming on. This has been really, really eye-opening, and I definitely love this subject. So we definitely need to connect or, stay in touch. So yeah, I can talk about this for days. So I'm going to stop it right there.
Absolutely. I'm happy to come back anytime and we can dig deeper into even more of this stuff, because I think we barely even scratched the surface today. So thank you so much for having me. I had a great time chatting with you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Did you like today's episode? I hope you did. Join me next week for more valuable bombs, tips, and tricks on how to grow your business by taking action. If you like this podcast, subscribe and leave us a review, or take a snapshot of this episode and tag me on Instagram at csdorsey_hello. We would love to hear from you.